Welcome to the nap. Much better when I turn my mic on. I promise to be much better with my mic today. I just noticed that for some reason my OBS decided to swap out my intro from 2 days ago with the one that was supposed to be for today, but that's just fine. As long as we are streaming. Good. So we have a bit of a lineup before a question period starts today, or as I like to call it, the no answer period. First off, I'd like to bring to attention something that has been going on here in Canada for quite a while. Now, a lot of it is linked towards my primary purpose that I started these channels in the first place, which was to try to bring attention to the number of people in this country that have been abandoned after they took the experimental messenger RNA injection, rebranded as a vaccine. We know there was the failed vaccine injury support program, which has let down a lot of people. And we know that members in the armed forces were released because they wouldn't take it, reducing the forces by 10%. And those that did get injured in there, well, guess what? They were abandoned as well. And it's the same kind of ideology that thinks they know best no matter what happens, this culture of death that thinks they know best and they don't have to answer to anybody. And nothing is more frightening than a government that decides that they have the power of life or death over you and everything else you hold dear. And especially if that happens to be your livestock, because the CFIA in Canada makes up its own rules, only accounts to itself, and is answerable to no one. If you're aware of this or not, I do not know, but I covered this a bit on my gardening channel, some updates now and then, but there is a large flock of ostriches out west, and I will let this first video here line this up, see if I can get this right, and let's do this here. You know, I guess I need to do this first. No, that shouldn't matter. Oh, I think I know what's going on. Ah, there we go. Another lesson learned. And let's do this. Do we have sound?
Well, it seems that the Canadian government is now flying helicopters over Universal Ostrich Farm in anticipation of culling almost 400 healthy ostriches. New to the channel, you might not be familiar with this story, but if you've been around the channel for a month or more, you're well aware of what is going on in Canada. Anarcho-tyranny, nothing short of that. A brief recap of the situation is that there is this farm, an ostrich farm in Canada called Universal Ostrich in British Columbia, and it's in 24 ostriches on that farm died as the result of some illness. They tested 2 of those ostriches with PCR anal swabs and determined that those ostriches died from the H5N1 avian flu, and as a result, the entire flock needed to be killed, even the ones that survived the initial infection, whatever that infection was. The farm appeals the decision from the CFIA, which is the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. It's an administrative agency, a federal agency created that basically applies its own rules, interprets its own rules, and carries out the execution of the application of its own rules. And the federal courts themselves are very deferential to these administrative bodies that are created by the government because they allegedly, purportedly, have some sort of degree of specialty. So Universal Ostrich Farms appeals the decision. They seek an injunction from the court, which they get. About 5 months later, they have their hearing before the federal court to determine whether or not the kill order, the cull order from the CFIA was inherently unjust or unfair. 5 months later, a court determines that no, the CFIA's decision to order the cull of all of the ostriches was not fundamentally unreasonable. It's an administrative body that the federal courts must be deferential to, and that they can follow through with the kill, even though 5 months later, none of the birds are infected anymore. Just appreciate that timeline. The test was done in December 2024. By May, give or take, they get an order from the federal court saying, yeah, you can go ahead and kill them, because when they tested them in December 2024, we're now now May 2025. It was reasonable then, and even though none of them are sick right now, kill all the healthy birds that actually survived whatever the outbreak was. The ostrich farm appeals that decision. They go to the Federal Court of Appeal in Ottawa, and they again out of the initial infection, 9 months out of the initial kill order, and the court says, no, you still need to kill 400 healthy birds. The farm is trying to get all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they got, I think, for a very brief period of time, an interim stay of the affirmation of the kill order. That interim stay has now been over. Whatever interim stay they got is no longer in effect, such that the ostriches can be killed at any moment now. Here's the latest reporting as to the interim stay being denied. From CBC News, British Columbia Court of Appeal rejects BC Ostrich Farm's latest bid to delay cull of birds due to avian flu.
So just to recap, last year in December, a flock of over 400 huge ostriches got something. They got some kind of avian flu, looks like. And they lost, what, 56 of the herd? And they were just about close to 400, maybe just over, because there was a few more that have been offed since then, or at least one. It was a rooster. So they recover. So what does CFIA do? They come by in December. They don't swab all 56 carcasses. They don't check the existing birds that have survived. No, they swab 2 dead carcasses. And from that, they use this polychain reaction test. And of course, it's very highly suspect because when it was used for the COVIDity stupidity, it was used at such a high rate of cycles that you could find anything with that. In fact, the creator of the PCR test, who passed away during the COVIDity stupidity, was very vocal in saying that his test should not be used for those kinds of of checking biological entities if they have a disease because it's not designed for that. It was designed for the lab. So you can run the PCR test as many times as you want to get the result that you want. And that's what they were doing during the COVID stupidity. And how do we know that's what they didn't do this time around? Because in addition, the CFIA doesn't release anything. They won't release any information, right? And so they're going to destroy this entire flock that's been in this on this farm for generations. And these birds are bloody expensive. It takes a lot to replace these birds. But they don't care. No, they don't care at all, right? It's for them, it's a culture of death, and as long as they think they're virtue signaling in the right direction, death is just fine. So they'll go in, these liberals, right? They will go in and they will cull this herd. And if you, and what's even crazier about this is that they have made it illegal to test the existing birds to see whether or not they're healthy. They have said for each bird tested, $10,000 fine, and you will go to jail. You'll be arrested and you'll be given a $10,000 fine if these farmers test their own birds to disprove the government's assertion based on what, 9-month-old PCR suspected tests. So when this went to court, all the court did was affirm that the CFIA had full power go in and be death cultists and carry out their practice. They refused to look at the evidence because that's what the hearing was about. So they have it's like being caught in a Kafkaesque nightmare because no one will allow you to present the truth to the government before the government comes in and destroys the herd. So Rebel News has been covering this as well. They have a website set up. They've been covering this from the beginning. The mainstream media has barely covered this at all because, of course, it would embarrass the Liberal government. So why would the Liberal-controlled media in Canada that takes an average of close to 30 grand per journalist per year of, uh, of funding from our tax dollars? They don't want to lose that. So, of course, they're not going to print or say anything. They've covered a few stories just to show that they're almost perhaps a little objective, right? Now, let's go to the latest here from Dre Humphrey at Rebel News. Let's see if I can get this one right as well. Play for me, Dre.
That's the amount of days that nearly 400 ostriches have been happy, healthy, and asymptomatic from the avian flu that they tested positive to. I should say 2 dead carcasses tested positive by the controversial PCR test last year. And that's also the amount of days that their farmers have been fighting tooth and which says they must be culled despite their apparent health, which is quite obvious from my reports, which you can find at savetheostriches.com. And so must the research that their eggs represent research that was extracting antibodies from those eggs to learn how to better fight viruses like the avian flu, which, competes with Big Pharma's vaccine plans to address that. I'm Drea Humphrey with Rebel News, and we've given you many reports on this story. And just last week, I reported by article on
Well, so that was it from so the little clip from Viva Frey at the beginning. Recommend you go and watch his entire thing and follow his channel on Rumble. And the other following piece was from Rebel News. Of course, there's far more to that as well. I recommend you also go to their channel and follow them as well, and especially this story because they have everything and they also have links for you to go and help them. It's a real tragedy because this kind of encroachment into your backyard and your property is just it's just a gateway because they've already done this, right? They've already gone to farms in this country and just decimated herds on their own accord and nobody has any recourse. So this is not the first time they've done this, and this will not be the last time they do this if this kind of death cultish activity doesn't get exposed. These people in CFIA have no soul, have no morals, have no ethics, don't care about the people that they are supposed to serve. And that's a primary thing that we've seen a lot in liberals, right? They are only in there to serve themselves, right? They get offended all the time about something or other, when in fact they should be concerned about how is this going to affect my constituents? How is this going to affect Canada? No, no, that's not how these people operate. Now, of course, this has also gotten a lot of attention, and a Dark Horse podcast, a very good podcast as well. They have touched a little bit on this, and there's some more information from them. And they're very solid people. I love the way the Dark Horse turned around here and also delved into the medical malfeasance behind the COVIDity stupidity. So this is also right down their alley.
Just a tiny bit about what's going on with the Universal Ostrich Farm in British Columbia, which sounds like it has nothing to do with this, but it really does.
No, it really does.
It really does. So the Universal Ostrich Farm in British Columbia, not too far from the U.S. border here on the West Coast where we are, has had ostriches for decades. And in December 2024 and January of this year, they had 69 of their flock die. And it is presumed that they died of avian flu, although that isn't actually certain. All of the living herd, of which there are 400-ish individuals, have been, quote, according to a September 6 article in Rebel News, healthy and symptom-free for 235 days. So they had a substantial fraction, less than a fifth, but a substantial fraction of their flock, which they've had for decades, die. But the vast majority of them have been healthy and symptom-free for much more than half a year. It's now come to a head because the Canadian, I don't remember what the acronym is, but the Canadian Animal Safety something regulatory structure is saying that the entire flock needs to be culled in order to get avian flu out of existence. And of course, the owners of the farm and many other people, largely being reported on again at Rebel News, have said this is ridiculous. These animals are healthy. You also have no right to declare our animals unsafe when there's no evidence that they are, and kill our animals, which will inherently kill our business. But compare that to the mainstream coverage, of which there hasn't been a lot, but we have, for instance, we have, for instance, in Politico, And this is just in chronological order of 3 articles that I found covering this story. So this is going to be
I did it again. Sorry, folks. I didn't have the bloody mic on. So, as you can see there on Dark Horse, I would suggest you go and you see the rest of the podcast yourself. They have a really good follow-up. And this follows right into the fact that you don't see any publications on this in the mainstream media. Of course, and because then people start asking questions. They're like, well, how do they get rid of the animals? Well, the CFIA, the death cult, they show up at the farm, right? And they'll give you an option. You either kill the animals or they will kill them for you. And if you refuse, of course, they will bring Johnny Law with them to make sure you're segregated from the animals. And then once the business is done, well, then now it's up to you to dispose of the carcasses, and it's up to you to try to get recompensed from it. Because they're not showing up with a bag of money to say, "Oh, sorry, you lost all these animals to disease that we won't let you test your animals for. Just take our word for it. And oh yeah, you'll have to file for recompense after. Bye-bye." Yeah, they just show up, destroy your life, and then take off, all under the cover of the law. A law that they made up themselves. It's incredibly crazy. Now, what's even worse is if anybody's ever lived on a farm in Canada or been to a farm in Canada that has geese, and if you've been asked to go in the back and grab the goose for dinner, um, there's a certain way to do it, right? Because it's a goose, and that bloody thing will practically beat you to death with its wings. Now imagine a large raptor like these birds, like these ostriches, right? And the roosters are even bigger. Imagine the power behind them. They have a tool that comes in and grabs the neck and breaks it. Now imagine the rest of the flock. They're going to be in a panic. It's going to be it's going to be devastation. I don't think they really understand what's going on, and I really hope this grabs a lot more public traction because first they come for the farm animals, then they come for your pets, and then they will come for you. As a matter of fact, they're already coming for you because they've already provided you with medical assistance in dying. And so they have already given you an easy way out, easier than the farm animals. At least they will dispose of human body because they have to. All right, so here we are in Canada, and I never thought I would see this. Never thought I would see this at all because we have been seeing this this stupidity happening in the UK, right? And what has been happening in the UK? Well, the radical far leftists at all levels, at the street level, at the municipal level, and at the upper levels of government, like Labour, they hate their flag. They hate their UK flag. They find it racist. They find their own flag in their own country unacceptable. These are the kind of crazies that they have in the UK. Well, Canada is now in the same club. If I could just find, there we go. Let's do this. See if we can bring this up. No, I gotta do this. There we go. That's right. You're looking at a ticket that was issued for somebody waving a Canadian flag in Canada. Now, it's crazy is that the cop that issued this ticket probably has a Canadian flag on his uniform. So if I was the ticket holder of this, I would definitely go to court and fight it and say that the ticket issuance, because they too are wearing a flag. In fact, they forgot to issue tickets to all the other vehicles that might have been driving by that might have a Canadian flag on their plate. Seeing as that you're in Ottawa and there's probably a lot of Canadian flags kicking around on license plates that, a lot of plates that say Canada on them, like all the D&D plates. This is absolutely insane. This is just another indicator of how far Canada has fallen into a cesspit of far left virtue signaling idiocy. All right, so enough of this flag. Now, of course, as you've heard, the Liberal caucus is imploding. Well, not the caucus, but the Privy Council. Ministers are leaving left, right, and center. Let's go through the lineup. Do we save her for last? We can always do her again. First off, we have Krista Freeland. She's going off to be, I don't know, an envoy in Ukraine. Liberals grilled. Docs contradicting minister statements on $1 billion loan in Chinese ferries. Yeah, so shortly after this story comes out, poof, she's off to Ukraine to help rebuild, to help, I guess they need somebody on the ground there to help launder the money that they're stealing from the treasury. Allegedly. Allegedly. Right? And yes, that's right. I do have something for Freeland. Let's have a listen to um nope, not this one. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Let's just get rid of this Freeland picture here for a sec, and then we'll bring in.
But some people say, hey, boy, she was really front and center in renegotiating NAFTA or the Kuzma deal and deftly stick handled her way around Donald Trump to Canada's benefit and so on and so forth. And you say what? To Canada's benefit, the reason that this poo-poo hit the fan is, I got to calm down. Let's talk about what actually happened. The reason this thing happened to us and Trump, I thought it was Trudeau. I was there in November when they came down pre-inauguration. I had no idea how much Trump disliked her. And why? Because during his first mandate, during his first term, she kept throwing barbs at him all around the world along with Trudeau. I thought it was Trudeau he didn't like. He disliked her more than anything and pointed that out to Carney. She is the reason we're in this situation. It's at her feet. 100% of the blame is on her. So forget about NAFTA. If that's what we got out of NAFTA, we end in this situation where we have an adversary with 71% of our buying comes out of the United States. Carney's got to fix that. I like the fact he's diversifying. But do not forget the destruction she did with the United States and her relationship with Trump, who's a very transactional guy, and relationships matter. He's an elephant. He doesn't forget. I'm not supporting him. I'm telling you how it is. I'm a policy guy. And then look what she did to the Huawei executive's daughter. That was sheer stupidity. And she destroyed our relationship with China. To ask any farmer that tried to ship hogs over there or grains, that's at her feet. She owns all of this. She is the worst of the worst. Look, I just want to tell the truth so people don't sit around saying, oh, how great she was. She took Canada to its knees, and now someone has to fix it. Well, I just want you to know, when on the Krista Freeland news, and without any disrespect, and I respect her as a politician in terms of taking that job, but you know what I feel about her. I popped a glass of really good Montrachet and said, it took a long time, and I want to take some credit for getting rid of her. I have been working so hard to point out to everybody around the world how bad she is, and finally we have leadership that recognizes that I'm right.
Wow. So it wasn't just everyone else I spoke with. Well, somebody else who's leaving the cabinet, John Wilkinson. Now he's been known to be quite the supporter of the green scam, 16 Ways from Sunday, and here we are. Of course, he's being investigated. Standard thing. That must be a standard checkbox, a list of all things Liberal Party members have to do in their political career one time or another, and that would be to be in ethics violations of some kind. Hmm. And of course, Wilkinson is also he's not the only guy leaving. You've also got one of the former ministers of defense, the one who took over from Anand afterwards, Mr. Blair. Where are you there, Mr. Blair? Oops, I think I missed. There we go. That's much better. Let's make this a little bigger. I was in a bit of a hurry trying to get. Today was the last day for the Garden podcast. We're doing it daily, and just ran out of time trying to get ready for this podcast. So here we have Bill Blair, right? And then, of course, he moved into the safety portfolio. And while he was there at the safety portfolio, that's when the COVIDity stupidity hit. And he was one of the architects in the back rooms, being responsible for maligning the protesters, the peaceful protesters who showed up to Ottawa, who fed the poor on a street and kept the streets clean and had bouncy castles. And yes, they made a lot of noise and honked their horns. But as a result, what happened was that the mandates slowly started peeling back because they realized how upset people were. The narrative that they were trying to create in the back rooms, that they were just a bunch of racists, right? And every other name. And then, of course, then there was literally the false flag event where somebody carrying a Nancy Boy flag came out from behind police lines, Chateau Laurier, right? Nobody could get down there in those stairs at the Chateau Laurier by the canal, but you could see that's where the flag originated, and off it went. And hey, as soon as it showed up in the crowd, boom! Mr. Trudeau's photographer was there to take a picture, and then after that, of course, they vanished and never showed up for the rest of the time. But that was enough for the mainstream media, controlled by these clowns, to continue to hammer. And to this day, there's still people who believe that the freedom protests were a bunch of racists, when all they wanted to do was have freedom of choice. You have to remember, at the time, there were RFTs and requests for tenders to build concentration camps to hold the non-vaccinated, just like they had in Australia. And if you think I'm exaggerating, look it up. They were putting people in those camps. Oh, we couldn't get our camps up fast enough, so what did they do? They put them in hotels, and if you refuse to go to the hotel, what, $14,000 fine? These people are bloody insane, and they haven't taken any of it back. They haven't apologized, they haven't excused themselves whatsoever. This guy is going off to get a post. What's he going to? He's going to UK. He's going to the UK as a consul or an envoy or whatever. Right? He's getting a little cushy job. And of course, he's not going to retire until ding, 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 his pension kicks in. And that's why they have delayed the budget till November 4th, because he is not the only guy whose pension comes in after the budget comes out. You will also have, where is he? I'm going to find you. I'm going to find you. Did I miss you? Oh, there you are. Let's make sure we got him. Make him a little bigger. Shall we see? Come on. Transition. There we go. This guy. Now that he's made all his money, it's not enough that he's siphoned a bunch of money. Now, these are the documents, right, that we've been waiting to see since June of 2024, that all Canadians conveniently forgot about during the last election. The the 5,000 pages of redacted documents that would probably show us where this money went, how it got there. No, can't see that stuff, right? Mighty Ogo has been trying to get that. The committee, they keep shutting down the committee. Yeah, liberals keep shutting down that committee too. So anyway, this guy's pension is kicking in after October. So that's why they're delaying the budget. Maybe. I don't know. Could be. Hey, it's circumstantial, but there it is. Who else is leaving? Yes, we have. Says he feels disrespected after being dropped from cabinet. He was a housing minister for about 2 seconds, and then Carney dropped him and put somebody else in. And now he's looking at maybe taking over the Ontario Liberal Party leadership. So he's thinking about running for that. But just look at the first line. He feels disrespected. That's how these liberals are. They, it's all about them. It's not about the people they serve. It's about their career. It's about pushing forward the party, putting forward the party's ideologies of all their platforms. And you could see it in how they react in Parliament during the no answer period, right? They don't care about the constituents. It's about the party line. They're like, oh, well, they elected us, and that means that they supported our platform. They are so tone deaf. They don't realize that things change from one day to the next, let alone on the hour, and that people's values and opinions change all the time, and circumstances change all the time. You can't stay on a rigid path. That's how these binary thinking people do life, right? So, next on our agenda, before we start with our no answer period, as you know, there's Bill C2 going through Parliament, and because of all the unnecessary crime that the Liberals have unleashed, well, let's let MP Barber tell it to you. Let's make sure we transition here.
Like and subscribe.
It's an assault on this House. It's an assault on the court. Opening mail without judicial oversight is an assault on all Canadians. I don't understand what is happening to our country. I don't understand how is it that in the last few years...
And big thanks to this guy's garage here. They put together a quick little clip today, and that's really awesome. And again, I put these clips up. Go to their website, subscribe to them, watch their stuff. There's no way a single channel could cover everything that happens in Parliament. There's multiple committees happening during the day, and everybody's doing their part.
Freedom has become a dirty word. The Liberals are chipping away. They're chipping away at values that our country was founded on. The state broadcaster, the communications arm of the Liberal Party, gets $1.5 billion of our money from the Liberals. First, they mock anyone who defends basic civil rights. Then they call them crazy or fringe or right-wing. When that doesn't work, they call them dangerous. I was born in the former Soviet Union. This is precisely what the Soviet communists did for almost 70 years. Mock the opposition, then call them crazy, then demonize them. And do you know how it ends? It ends with labor camps or re-education camps or prison. Ronald Reagan once said that the loss of freedom is only one generation away. He was wrong. The loss of freedom is only one government away. And just when you think it can't get any worse, along comes the same Liberal government, just with a new Liberal Prime Minister. And they want Parliament to pass a law that a Crown Corporation can open your letter, your Christmas card, your bill, without a warrant. Speaker, this drug crisis is a national tragedy the Liberals created. Speaker, when I was 20 years old, I lost a friend to heroin overdose. Simon Woods came back from rehab and he relapsed. I'm going to send a shout out to my boys. We were his pallbearers. I met countless people throughout my career, lawyers, politicians who struggled with addiction. I wish I could bring Simon back. I wish I could bring all of them back. But this legislation will not bring back any of them. And this legislation will not change anything except amount to an assault on the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Put the envelope aside. Go see a justice. if there is no urgency, no exigent circumstances, please obtain a warrant. Please remove this thing, remove it from this bill. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
So they're going to give an answer and they're going to lie. The liberals are going to outright lie, right? Because they're going to say, oh, what are you talking about? They have to get a warrant, blah, blah, blah. No, the act doesn't tell you to get a warrant. They're outright lying to Canadians all the time. And you can't call them out in Parliament that they're lying because they're not allowed to say that word. You can say some other words, they're obfuscating, or but it all depends, right? Because if the speaker says, oh, you can't say he's lying, even though he's not telling the truth. So let's go right to the end there, and we will see this last response. And you can see this guy he is a complete psychopath. He just has no issues whatsoever to just blatantly lie in people's faces.
I'd ask him to listen very carefully. If, in principle, would the member not agree that if there is a warrant that is issued so a law enforcement officer can open that letter, would he not support that in principle? Based on what he's saying, I would have assumed the answer would have been yes.
See this weasel, right? He's talking about the act allows you to act in principle as if you had a warrant, right? Don't you support that? Don't you support taking drugs with the streets? With you. That's these psychopaths. They just make the most ridiculous.
Commissioner, I want to ask you some questions
Oh man,
about
I
the
did it
Prime
again. I didn't have the mic
Minister's
on.
so-called ethics screen. First of all, the ethics screen is being administered by the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff and the Clerk of the Privy Council, correct? Yes. So we have the Chief of Staff, who is appointed by and works directly for the Prime Minister, and the Clerk of the Privy Council, who serves at the pleasure of the Prime Minister. These two individuals are hardly independent of the Prime Minister. So in the face of that, what assurance do Canadians have that the screen is being implemented and enforced properly?
Well, let's be practical. Anything that goes to the Prime Minister for decision goes to either one of these men or both. They are in effect, the key holders for what gets on his desk and what he deals with. So they are the logical ones to make sure he does not get involved in these things. And
well, sir,
I'm just talking about purely administratively. If you want to install, you're the key people who determine who the last person, what goes to the Prime Minister are these two people. They, of course, have a whole...
Well, sir, I understand that it's administered by the Chief of Staff and the Clerk of the Privy Council, both of whom serve at the pleasure of the Prime Minister. And so I'm asking you in the face of that, what assurance do Canadians have that the screen is actually being enforced properly? Are there any independent mechanisms that your office has to ensure that it, in fact, is being applied properly?
Okay, get the mic on. Really, the only answer that he has is that, oh, well, you have to trust us, even though we were appointed by the Prime Minister and our jobs are dependent on him, but you're going to have to trust us. Yeah, you're going to have to trust us. Before I get to David, because I had that queued up, are they still statement by members? Good. Again, Moose on a Loose, please go to his channel.
back to Chrystia Freeland and Ukraine. Rebuilding Ukraine, special envoy to rebuilding Ukraine. I was doing some digging and I got this page, shout out to Andy Lee. The U.S.-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Agreement, a new model for rebuilding and strategic partnership. So first off, this was April 2025, so just a few months ago that this came out. And scrolling down, what do we got here? Energy, critical minerals, infrastructure, agribusiness, etc., etc. And then we've got a list of companies, publicly traded companies already involved. Are the alarm bells going off already? Let's just go through these one by one. There's 9 of them on here. BlackRock. We're just going to go right to my chart. You know what's on here. BlackRock. It's right there. Mark Carney's invested in it. Number 2, JP Morgan Chase. JP Morgan Chase. Mark Carney's invested in it. Number 3, Brookfield Corporation. We already know he's invested in that. Owner of Westinghouse, which is supplying nuclear reactors and fuel to Ukraine. So he'll be enriched off of the top 3. How about number 4, Citigroup. Citigroup Inc. right there. Carney's invested in it. Number 5, Accelerator Mittal. I've never heard of this one. Carney not invested in this one. Number 6, Aon PLC. I knew this one right away because this is not one of the American stocks. You can see right there, this one's in Ireland. Aon PLC. Carney's invested in it. Number 7, Vesta Wind Systems. Carney not invested in this one. Number 8, Honeywell International. Honeywell International. He's invested in it. Finally, we've got General Electric Company, GE. And of course, yes, Mark Carney is invested in GE. And not only is he invested in GE, he's invested all 3 wings of GE. So off of this list, Carney's invested in 7 of 9 of these companies. So how's Carney enriching himself? It's not just through Brookfield. It's through the rebuilding of Ukraine. I don't think these guys made some deal with Putin and said, hey, why don't you guys invade and then we'll make a bunch of money off this. But I think they saw an opportunity and said, you know what? Let's keep this going. We want to have as much destruction as possible because then we can make a killing off of the rebuild. So really, Mark Carney should have nothing to do with talking about Ukraine, that whole event, giving money to it, any of it, because it's a direct conflict of interest. He has 7 of 9 companies that are invested in rebuilding it. He should have nothing to do with it. And really, he should have nothing to do with anything because he's a walking conflict of interest. The guy's got 600 something odd stocks here. If you haven't taken a look at the chart yet, I've got them broken down into different categories here. I mean, he's got conflicts out the wazoo, and it doesn't matter what area you're looking in here: telecom, media, transportation, logistics, healthcare, industrials, energy, materials. The guy's beyond conflicted. He has to either sell his stocks or he has to step down. It's not fair that he's prime minister. It's not right. It's not ethical. I see people saying I should just invest in Brookfield and make money off of it. I would be conflicted if I invested in Brookfield. Then it would be in my interest for him to keep this going. That's not going to happen. I'm not going to be part of his green grift. With that said,
billion. Canadians deserve to know, Mr. Speaker, how high will the deficit go before the November 4th budget?
L'honorable député de la Salle et Marc Verdun.
Monsieur le Président, alors que l'année scolaire est maintenant bien entamée.
Okay, so we're still doing statement by the members. So as you can see from what David posted, it's all over the place. There's nothing that Carney can do with his investments that doesn't really conflict them in anything. Now, what I want to do is I want to go down here in his statements. Oh, there's the moose chart right there. I've been looking for a link for this. Let's see if it comes up. This is my VPN kicking in. All right, this be really interesting. Finally getting to see the moose chart. Keep an eye on Parleview. Still statement by members.
La Salle et Marc Verdun ont pu amorcer la rentrée du bon pied.
Milk is $14.79. A 900-gram jar of Cheese Whiz is $17.29. In Cambridge Bay, a can of baked beans is $9.99. A 1.5-liter bottle of ketchup is $19.88. A box of soup crackers is $22.99. Lastly, in Iqaluit, a can of mushroom soup is $10.19.
It looks like we've moved on from statements
a gallon of ice cream
straight
is
into the nap.
And a can of Tim Hortons, get this, folks, is $48.89. If Northerners' experience at the grocery store is the measure of this Prime Minister's success, then he's been an abysmal failure.
The honourable member for South Surrey White Rock.
held this summer in South Surrey, White Rock.
Okay, we're still at statements. But it's nice to see that the Conservatives are using their statement time to continue to hammer the government on their failures. All right, does this come up? Oh, look at you. Outstanding. Oh, you guys, if you're not following David, you have to go to Moose on a Loose and follow him. Look at the amount of work that he has put into this file. Yeah, you have anybody out there who's saying, oh, what you're saying isn't true? Go to Moose on a Loose. Link up to this chart. Now he's got a list of everything, and slowly, piece by piece, he's going through and he's putting links to everything because he got a list of all the shares, everything that he owns, and then he's slowly going through and he's reconfirming all this information. And then this huge spider web of people in his green scam, the G fans. And of course, in here, you have all your liberal insiders, right? All your liberal insiders, all the people that work in the government and work for the government, and you want to know where all your tax dollars are going and where the grift goes, and it's allegedly the grift, right? How people's palms get greased, allegedly. How once they get involved with a party, they're always taken care of and they're given a position somewhere else, or if they meet up along the way and they help each other out in business. Next thing you know, years later, if they get in government, well, next thing you know, they get a little cushy position, like maybe the Privy Office clerk, right? So a lot of corruption, and then beautiful. Look at this information. It's outstanding. And we still have our statements for members. I think we're just going to have to let this play. This keeps freezing every time I go back to it. And it looks like we have started.
And the Canadian unemployment rate is 3 times higher than Mexicans. Will the Prime Minister ask his Mexican friends what they're doing right that he's doing so wrong?
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister believes in having a strong relationship with Mexico, our second biggest trading partner. That's exactly why he is in Mexico today, meeting with the President to make sure that we can have our trading relationship really on par. Now, the other thing that the leader of the opposition needs to understand is that we're living in a much more dangerous and complicated world.
There they go, framing. Well, you have to understand, our job's really hard because things have changed.
All around the world. We will stand up for workers, we'll stand up for our businesses, and we'll build Canada strong.
So the last time he went to Mexico, he got told to go home because it might jeopardize the deal they had with the U.S.
Liberal government when they go from making promises to making excuses. So they're blaming their collapsing economy on global tensions. But interestingly, Mexico shares the same neighbor as we do. We're both right next door to the Americas, so we can compare performance. But in the most recent quarter, the Mexican economy has actually grown by 2.4%. The Canadian economy down by 1.6%. Our unemployment is three times what theirs is. Why?
Canada is literally in worse shape than Mexico because of these liberals.
Mr. Speaker, what is shocking from the leader of the opposition comments is always talking down Canadian workers, Canadian businesses.
Stating facts is not talking down Canadians. It's talking down you people.
The Bank of Canada yesterday reduced rates. We should all be celebrating that.
Right. Let's not answer the fact that the economy is worse than Mexico.
In the tariff sectors, including aluminum, steel, auto, copper, and all the other sectors, because we know that these workers are important, these businesses are important, and we have a plan to build Canada strong.
Apparently, your plan has been to make us worse off than Mexico.
Et surtout les 86 000 travailleurs qui ont perdu leur emploi à cause des politiques libérales qui sont en train de défendre notre économie. Donc la question, le Mexique a augmenté son économie 2,4% le dernier trimestre. Le Canada a vu une réduction d'1,4%. Les exportations mexicaines ont augmenté aux États-Unis lorsque le nôtre ont perdu.
Okay, so you're repeating the same question in French, right? You could have used that time to ask something else. And if there were French people watching, they would have heard the first question translated to them.
Position ne sait pas de quoi il parle. Le chef de l'opposition ne sait pas de quoi il parle parce que lorsqu'on regarde l'économie canadienne, présentement, les taux d'intérêt ont baissé. La Banque du Canada
He
nous
just
annonçait
said
2,5%
the opposition
de taux
leader has
directeur.
no idea
Bonne
what he's
nouvelle
saying
pour tous
because
ceux
the
qui ont
bank
une
rates have
maison
gone
ou qui
down.
sont sur le point d'en acheter. En même temps, nous savons que nous devons travailler avec le Mexique. Nous devons également travailler avec les États-Unis. Mais notre stratégie est non seulement de bâtir un Canada fort, mais également de regarder vers d'autres partenaires commerciaux en Europe, en Asie, certainement au Mexique, pour faire en sorte de faire croître notre économie.
Well, when you give a word salad, it sounds like you don't know what you're talking about.
We've had a free trade agreement with Mexico for almost 3 decades. So the Prime Minister is going for nothing more than a photo op, another fake engagement. Just like the minister talks about interest rates, the Bank of Canada said the reason they're cutting rates while inflation is rising is because our economy is collapsing. They promised the fastest growing economy in the G7. They've delivered the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. They promised more home building. It's falling by 13%. They promised to spend less. Their deficit spending is 100% more. You know, talk is cheap, but why is it so expensive when this Prime Minister does it?
L'honorable ministre de l'Industrie.
We know that the leader of the opposition believes in isolationism, which is basically that Canada is by itself in the world. We believe that we need to engage in the world. We need to make sure that Canada
What kind of straw man argument is that? Just accuse them of something out of the blue so you don't answer the question why you ruin the economy?
to engage with leaders of this in the world because we believe that it is the way to build a strong economy.
So their answer is,
Save and protect jobs.
we're going to make something up about the opposition, and then we believe things are going to get good. So ignore the misery.
And multilateralism is heard in the world.
She just talks salad.
Speaker, we've had free trade agreements with all of those countries and regions for over a decade. And yet the Prime Minister is busy, looking busy, flying around, grip and grin, pretending to do a lot while doing very little. But he could make use of all of that expensive travel by asking all of those other places why their economy is so much stronger than the one that he now leads. He got, under his leadership, the second highest unemployment in the G7, the worst economic growth in the G7, the worst household debt in the G7, and the worst household debt and housing costs in the G7. Why is it that when he promises to be the first, he's the worst?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, as we look at what's happening with global trade headwinds, we need to step up as a country and be there around the world to make sure countries know that we are here. They
Typical liberal.
a reliable, stable trading partner.
We need to step up for the world. He just asked you a question about why Canada is in the toilet, and you don't care about Canada. You're saying, oh, well, let's ignore that. We have to step up in the world.
Opening up new markets for Canadian businesses and workers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You had 10 years, buddy.
Speaker, these aren't new markets. The member might have been asleep. Actually, he seems like a very young man. Maybe he wasn't born when Brian Mulroney negotiated NAFTA with the Mexicans. Maybe the Prime Minister was sleeping the day Conservatives negotiated a free trade agreement with the Europeans. He's going around taking credit for things that he never did while his economy collapses here at home.
Oh my, the liberals are losing their minds over that comment.
Themselves. Will the Prime Minister stop making excuses, taking fake trips, and get down to his job?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, I won't go to personal attacks as the member opposite has. We'll focus on the facts. There's people watching.
Oh, like the personal straw man attacks that liberals do all the time on him. Yeah, okay.
Years of strong friendship and economic partnerships rooted in trust and trade and mutual.
Only a liberal would take a statement of fact as, you know, an attack.
$1 billion in 2024. The Prime Minister will be meeting with President Sheinbaum to defend our industries and grow.
Yes, we know. There's an itinerary sheet. We can go on a website and see who's going to go see, but nothing's going to happen. He's just going on a vacation.
L'honorable député de Saint-Jean.
Monsieur le Président, c'est pas seulement la loi 21 et la laïcité de l'État qu'Ottawa attaque en Cour suprême, c'est pire. On a voté démocratiquement n'importe quelle loi souhaitée par les Québécois sans devoir d'abord quêter la permission au Canada. C'est une attaque contre la laïcité, mais c'est aussi une attaque contre notre capacité historique à protéger la langue française. C'est une attaque contre nos valeurs et contre la souveraineté de notre Parlement. Les libéraux vont-ils renoncer à cette charge odieuse contre le Québec?
Honorable ministre de l'Identité et de la Culture canadienne.
Le gouvernement du Canada a la responsabilité de défendre l'un des piliers de notre démocratie, soit la Charte des droits et libertés, partout au Canada, et de défendre les droits de tous les Canadiens et Canadiennes. C'est notre travail de défendre cette charte et de nous assurer que toute personne dans ce pays soit protégée. Nous faisons notre job, Monsieur le Président. La cause est devant la Cour suprême et nous allons la suivre de très près. Merci.
L'honorable député de Saint-Jean.
N'existe pas l'utilisation préventive de la clause dérogatoire. C'est une invention pour retirer au Québec sa capacité à décider par lui-même. Le fédéral demande carrément aux tribunaux de neutraliser une partie de la Constitution sans débat politique et à la place des politiciens dans le but de retirer des pouvoirs fondamentaux au Québec. Mais ce n'est pas un débat juridique. C'est un coup de force constitutionnel contre l'autodétermination du Québec mené hypocritement via les tribunaux. Est-ce que les libéraux vont avoir le courage de mener eux-mêmes leur combat politique au lieu d'instrumentaliser la justice?
L'honorable ministre de l'Identité et de la Culture canadienne.
Monsieur le Président, ma collègue sait très bien que l'intervention du gouvernement fédéral devant la Cour suprême n'empêchera pas aucune province, aucun territoire de continuer d'utiliser la clause dérogatoire. C'est très clair, elle le sait. Ça me ferait plaisir s'il y a des enjeux d'organiser une présentation.
So just because we have our lawyers holding you up in court regarding the notwithstanding clause doesn't mean nobody else can go ahead and use the notwithstanding clause.
Monsieur le Président, la nomination partisane de Robert Leckey comme juge à la Cour supérieure du Québec remet aussi en question la différence québécoise en matière de justice. En nommant Maître Leckey, même s'il n'a pas l'expérience nécessaire au barreau du Québec, le fédéral choisit un juge qui n'a pas la connaissance suffisante du droit civil unique au Québec. En nommant Maître Leckey, alors qu'il est un adversaire public de la laïcité de l'État et de la Charte de la langue française, le fédéral choisit sciemment un juge qui s'oppose à la différence québécoise. Le ministre va-t-il enfin annuler cette nomination?
Voilà. L'honorable secrétaire parlementaire au ministre de la Justice.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Les nominations judiciaires aux cours supérieures relèvent du gouvernement fédéral et le Québec participe déjà au processus de nomination. Nous discutons de bonne foi, sans obligation d'en arriver à un accord. Le ministre Fraser est en contact avec son homologue et une rencontre est prévue en septembre. L'indépendance judiciaire demeure une pierre angulaire de notre démocratie.
Well, that looks like they made enough noise, so they're going to get a meeting between ministers.
10 years of passing catch-and-release laws that let dangerous offenders free just hours after getting arrested, the Liberals are still obstructing efforts to undo these laws. They voted down our motion, shut down Parliament, called a snap election, went on summer holidays, and still haven't even started the process to fix what they've broken. So Conservatives will do it for them. Our plan will end catch and release and give 10-year jail sentences to anyone convicted of 3 serious offenses. We could pass these laws today. When will the Liberals stop obstructing Parliament and pass the Conservative 3 strikes you're out law?
Never. They will never admit defeat.
Mr. Speaker, on April the 28th, Canadians gave this government a mandate.
Oh, there we go again. Yeah, we won the election, so we don't have to listen to you.
That our streets are safer. The 3 strikes and you're out laws don't work, Mr. Speaker. We know that evidence-based decision-making.
Yeah, because your laws have worked so well, right?
A complete failure in the United States. It's been a failure in every single jurisdiction where that's been applied.
No, it hasn't been a failure in the United States. It's only been a failure in democratic states where they refuse to apply the law.
It's strengthened to ensure that repeat violent offenders are off our streets.
How many times repeat? 18, 26? I don't know.
One day they might get around to doing it. The evidence is in. Their plan is what caused the crime and chaos that is plaguing our communities. They deliberately changed laws to let thousands of dangerous and repeat offenders back on the street. Now they're admitting that they were wrong, but they're obstructing any efforts to fix the problem. Thousands of Canadians' lives have been shattered, and too many Canadians have paid with their conservative plans to fix what they broke. Will they at least look the families of those victims in the eye and just say sorry?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader always wants to bring U.S.-style politics to Canada.
That's right.
Let me be
Oh,
clear, Mr. Speaker.
there you go, personal
the
attack.
Work in the U.S. and many of the states are already repealing that law. We're focused on real, practical, proven solutions.
Actually, the states where they repeal that law, I think they're getting visits from the National Guard to deal with the crime.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops, Thompson-Nicola.
157 kilograms. The amount of cocaine that was recently seized by Alberta police. Mr. Speaker, this type of drug is often laced with fentanyl and carfentanil and goes on to kill thousands. The reality is that there's a lack of disincentive for drug dealers not to do this because of soft on crime policies by these Liberals. So the question is this: when will they stop obstructing and start repealing their soft on crime agenda? Hear, hear.
Of course they won't, because the Liberal Party is a criminal organization.
Speaker, let me take this opportunity to
Allegedly.
thank law enforcement for their diligent and hard work in ensuring that drugs are offered.
And let me thank the police who intercepted the shipment we didn't mean them to.
Protecting our borders, Mr. Speaker. He will support us in passing the Strong Borders Act, Bill C-2. It will help us crack down on fentanyl, auto theft, money laundering, illegal firearms.
So because we screwed up the economy and we've caused mayhem in society, you have to allow us to put in more authoritarian rule.
The tools they need to dismantle increasingly sophisticated organized criminal networks. A secure Canada is a strong Canada, Mr. Speaker, and we're taking
Yeah,
action.
secure Canada, like, you know, opening your mail without a warrant.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Vaughan has seen 7 shootings, 7 incidents of violent crime. Since the Liberal government changed the bail laws, violent crime is up by 50%. Wow. Our Conservative motion calls for a 3 strikes and you're outlaw to keep repeat violent offenders in jail. So why is the Liberal government waiting until next month to introduce bail legislation, putting more Canadians in danger every day? The Prime Minister's failure to act is a betrayal of the victims of crime. When will the Liberals stop obstructing so people can feel safe in their own homes?
Oh, great question.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, one of the ways that the Conservatives can be effective is they can help us pass C2.
That's right.
Currently, all mail couriers like UPS, FedEx, Purolator, they can all be checked for drugs. What can't be checked is packages of Canada Post under 500 grams. 2 grams of fentanyl is lethal. It can kill a human being. Why are the Conservatives on the side of drug traffickers?
The Honourable Member for Fundy Royal.
Mr. Speaker, if anyone has an interest in taking dangerous guns off the street, it's the police. But in a stunning indictment of the Liberals' gun confiscation scheme, the Ontario Provincial Police have just told this government they will not participate in their ridiculous gun grab. The OPP know what we've been saying all along, that spending hundreds of millions of dollars to confiscate the property of law-abiding Canadians will not make our streets any safer. Today, the Liberals have the opportunity to do the right thing and put an end to their catch-and-release justice system. Will the Liberals stop obstructing and support our motion to keep violent repeat offenders off our streets?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, on April the 28th this year, Canadians gave this government a mandate to ensure that guns are off our streets, including...
So that's one of their go-to answers, right? Anything that's embarrassing as of the result of their incompetence. Wow, we got elected. We got elected. That's our answer.
Policing in Ontario. This doesn't mean that we can't and won't continue with the program and collection facilities and municipal police. Mr. Speaker, we can't be tough on crime without being tough on guns. This is exactly what we're doing to keep Canadians safe.
What an authoritarian moron.
J'adore jogger et marcher à l'extérieur, mais je ne le fais plus durant mes semaines de travail ici à Ottawa. Je ne sors plus seule après souper parce que j'ai peur. Parce qu'on m'a interpellé déjà en me dénigrant le fait que j'étais une femme. Il y a aussi la violence entre partenaires intimes de regarder ailleurs. Nous déposons C-225 qui protégerait les femmes de la violence entre partenaires intimes et une motion pour une loi sur le retrait sur 3 prises. Est-ce que les libéraux vont nous appuyer?
This should be national news that a female MP is unsafe on the streets of Ottawa and our home capital because of these liberal policies.
Nous travaillons d'arrache-pied pour pouvoir émettre une législation sous peu. En fait, le ministre de la Justice s'est déjà engagé devant cette Chambre de devoir déposer un projet de loi cet automne. Nous savons que la sécurité de nos communautés n'est pas une affaire de slogan, c'est notre responsabilité. Pendant que nous visons des résultats concrets, les conservateurs se contentent de recycler des slogans et d'utiliser la peur. Les Canadiens et les Canadiennes méritent de se sentir en sécurité dans leur propre communauté et nous allons agir. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
L'honorable député de Bellechasse et Échemins, Lévis.
Venant d'une femme, là, j'étais un peu décontenancée et déçue d'entendre ça. Les femmes sont constamment en hypervigilance. Derrière les portes closes, la situation est préoccupante. La violence entre partenaires intimes est la forme de violence la plus fréquente contre les femmes. Le projet de loi C-225, il permettrait de protéger les femmes qui n'ont pas de voix. Peut-on, oui ou non, compter sur les libéraux pour faire en sorte que ce projet de loi soit adopté rapidement, Monsieur le Président?
L'honorable secrétaire parlementaire pour la nature.
Monsieur le Président, je comprends. Je comprends ma consoeur quand elle parle de difficultés à marcher dans la rue. Je l'ai vécu. Il m'arrive encore de la vivre. Toutefois, ce n'est pas la proposition qui a été proposée aujourd'hui, qui est une proposition qui va aider à rehausser la sécurité dans nos rues. Ce sont des lois et des règlements sensés, réfléchis avec la communauté, avec tous les paliers de gouvernement, qui vont nous permettre d'avoir une solution collective. Et donc, c'est par l'adoption du projet de loi C2 qu'on va réussir à faire quelque chose ensemble pour les femmes du Canada.
L'honorable député de Repentigny.
Vas-y, Pat. Monsieur le Président n'atteindra pas ses objectifs de réduction de gaz à effet de serre pour 2030. La cause? Mais c'est les libéraux. L'augmentation de la production de pétrole des sables bitumineux. Les libéraux empêchent eux-mêmes l'atteinte de leurs propres cibles, c'est ce que disent les experts. Encore plus alarmant parce que le premier ministre ne s'engage pas à respecter sa cible de 2030. Est-ce qu'ils vont respecter la cible de 2030, oui ou non?
Le ministre de l'Environnement et du Changement climatique.
Monsieur le Président, je suis très contente que le membre du Bloc partage mon intérêt à protéger l'environnement et à lutter contre le changement climatique. On a toujours su que ce serait difficile à faire, mais on est prêt à faire le travail.
So that would be the first self-licking ice cream cone question from a liberal to a liberal, where they applaud each other over the anti-human climate scam policies. Oh, they love their climate, but they hate Canadians because all it does is impoverish them. I don't know why they couldn't come up with a climate plan that both enrich and save the environment, but no, apparently there's only one cost, and that's to the taxpayer.
D'hydrocarbures. Ils abandonnent la tarification carbone et les incitatifs sur les véhicules zéro émission. Ils imposent leur projet de loi C5 pour contourner les lois environnementales et imposer des projets énergétiques. Ils reculent sur le plafonnement des émissions dans le secteur pétrolier et gazier. Bref, ils se comportent comme si l'identité canadienne, c'est être un promoteur de pétrole et de gaz. Est-ce que ce sont des fossoyeurs dans la lutte au changement climatique? Est-ce que c'est ça l'héritage qu'ils veulent laisser?
Ministre de l'Environnement et du Changement climatique.
Vraiment, moi je suis toujours très claire, notre gouvernement est très clair qu'on va bâtir un pays qui est très fort, un Canada fort, et ça c'est un Canada qui va être bon pour les futures générations. Pour le faire, on doit
I find it wonderful that the green scammers are eating each other over this thing. You can't develop the country without developing oil. You don't care about the environment. Oh, we care about society, so we're going to develop projects without really saying they're going to develop oil because we still have a no pipelines law in.
À continuer à faire le travail pour aider à retrofit leur maison. Alors, pour montrer, on travaille avec les provinces et on va continuer le travail.
Bravo.
Yeah. And then all these other incentives that enrich Brookfield and all those other companies that Prime Minister shares in.
The system beyond parity. In St. Thomas, a repeat offender was arrested for breaking and entering, released on bail with a curfew. He had to be in his home by 10 p.m. every night. But there's an issue. He's homeless. He doesn't have a home. The Liberals have made it so ridiculous people are getting released on bail with a curfew to nowhere. Violent offenders are getting out after being arrested. The Liberals are doing nothing about it. If they're not going to stand up and commit to supporting our 3 strikes, you're out motion now, how many strikes do they think is enough to lock up a repeat offender?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Andrew always has the best questions.
Introducing new legislation this fall to strengthen our bail system for those charged with violent offenses. Through our Stronger Borders Act C2, we're cracking down on organized crime, auto theft, fentanyl, and human traffickers, and securing our borders. We're listening to Canadian law enforcement.
So, how many strikes?
And we are going to ensure that we put forward measures that keep Canadians safe.
Hear, hear.
So, how many strikes?
Honourable member for Oxford.
Mr. Speaker, soft on crime, Liberal laws are hard on Canadians and our communities. Just yesterday, Halton Region passed a unanimous motion demanding action from the Liberals on repeat violent offenders now, not in October, not next year. After a decade of Liberal catch-and-release laws that have allowed criminals to terrorize our communities, they're now obstructing conservative jail, not bail laws that will lock up our criminals. How many lives have to be lost before the Liberals finally wake up and get out of the way?
I don't know. I don't know how many Canadians have died at the hands of Liberal laws since they came in 10 years ago. Is it 250,000 Canadians have died?
Crime on our streets. What's important for us is that we bring forward legislation to address the issues around serious violent offenders as well as bail reform. That's exactly
These people are impossible. It's not the crime that's impossible. It's the legislation. That's what we need to deal with.
A number of police chiefs as well as police unions to talk about smart criminal justice reform. That's exactly what we'll be doing, Mr. Speaker.
No, because the proof is in the pudding. You guys have no clue what you're doing. That last 10 years proves it.
Et la libération précipitée de récidivistes ont entraîné une explosion de 55% des crimes violents depuis 2015. Les communautés du Québec ne sont pas épargnées, plongeant les citoyens honnêtes dans une peur constante face à l'insécurité galopante. Notre motion conservatrice propose la loi des 3 prises et vous êtes retirés, imposant des peines minimales de 10 ans sans libération conditionnelle pour les récidivistes de crimes graves, de 3 crimes graves. Si les libéraux favorisent vraiment la sécurité des Canadiens, est-ce qu'ils vont appuyer notre motion?
L'honorable secrétaire parlementaire pour la nation. L'honorable secrétaire parlementaire au ministre. Oui, au ministre de la Justice.
Monsieur le Président, nous travaillons en étroite collaboration avec les provinces et territoires afin de reformer notre système de mise en liberté sous caution, la détermination de la peine et des délais judiciaires, donnant ainsi aux policiers et aux procureurs des outils plus efficaces pour garder les délinquants violents hors de nos rues, notamment dans les cas de criminalité violente ou organisée, d'entrée par infraction dans les maisons et des vols d'auto et de la traite humaine. Les Canadiens et les Canadiennes ont élu un nouveau gouvernement, ce gouvernement, pour améliorer la sécurité publique, rétablir la confiance dans le système de justice.
Flog that. New government. We're the new government. You're not a new government. You destroyed Canada.
Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington, Tyandanaga.
The Prime Minister was elected on the promise that he was the only one that could deliver a trade deal with the United States. Instead, here's the dismal record. Promised a deal by July 21st, there's no deal. Promised elbows up. Instead, antagonized and unpredictable administration. Promised strength at the table. Instead, delivered concession after concession with nothing in return. Mr. Speaker, meanwhile in Mexico, they got a deal. Their exports to the U.S. went up 1.4% last quarter, while ours dropped 18%. Mr. Speaker, what has Mexico done so right that this Prime Minister has done so wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, we know what our Prime Minister did wrong. He pissed off the U.S. at every turn. Well, Mexico worked with the U.S.
Right now, when it comes to
You have the only deal that's left because your party failed. You have no statecraft capabilities.
Without any tariffs. Now, we know also
Stop pointing at
that
us.
we
Stop
need
waving your
to
hand at
be
us.
there for the businesses and the workers in the sectors that are now tariffed. And we are here with $6 billion.
Oh, we're here for you with more money of the taxpayers to help these businesses because we screwed up the trade deal because we got no trade deal.
Members of this House should be getting behind the government's plan because
No,
we need to
that's not how government works. That's not how Parliament works. You just don't line up behind you like lemmings.
If we have the best deal, then why do we have the worst economy in the G7? Mr. Speaker, deadline after deadline has come and gone, and this government's promised trade deal is nowhere to be found. After failing at the negotiating table in Washington, this Prime Minister is now off to Mexico City, desperate to claim any kind of win. Compare that to our Mexican counterparts, who successfully negotiated a deal, sending their exports to the U.S. up 1.4% last quarter, while ours fell 18%. Mr. Speaker, again, what has Mexico done so right that this Prime Minister has done so wrong?
Yeah, I look forward to the non-answer.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, Canada and the U.S. share the world's most integrated, mutual, beneficial trade partnership. That's not up for debate. Millions of jobs in
Everything is
Canada
up for
and the
debate in
US
Parliament.
depend on our trading relationship. Canada already, and it's unequivocal, has the best deal amongst U.S. trading partners. While we continue to negotiate with the U.S. and with Mexico, our government is
You
focused
just
on what
got
we can
proven a
control
liar
most,
that you do
diversifying
not
our
have the
trade
best
relations
deal.
and supporting
Mexico
Canadian
has
businesses
gotten a better
and all
deal.
sectors.
Everyone else has gotten a deal. Canada got no deal because Carney pissed them all off.
Have contacted me and my team to express their frustrations with the delays they experience when they try to contact the CRA. We know that the dedicated employees of the CRA provide invaluable services.
This second time this week a Liberal is asking a question to a Liberal about CRA.
I couldn't hear anything, so I think the member will have to start from the top, if she doesn't mind.
Absolutely. Please, let us all know about CRA.
Maybe in a minute, but from the top for sure. So from the top.
Mr. Speaker, residents of my riding have contacted me and my team to express their frustrations with the delays they experience when contacting the CRA. In recent years, and the system needs to be improved. Could the Secretary of State for the CRA and financial institutions inform this House of the measures taken by the government to improve services delivery at the CRA?
The Honourable.
I think that was her first question in Parliament. So, everybody's... And of course, it's making the Liberals look bad, so the Conservatives love it. Now, of course, if you don't watch Question Period a lot, you'll know that MPs can't continue until the Speaker sits.
The Secretary of State for Financial Institutions and the CRA.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for that great question. Mr. Speaker, delays at CRA call centers are completely unacceptable. We all know that.
Well, it's such a rare occasion for Liberals to actually admit to anything they've done wrong. Of course, there's going to be a lot of noise in the lower house.
First, that's my first standing ovation. Thank you. But seriously,
What happens when there's interruptions like this is I can't really follow the clock, so I have no control over how much time I give for the answer. So with the Secretary of State for Financial Institutions and the CRA, I'd like to start from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, we all know that the delays Canada faces, Canadians face at CRA call centers is completely unacceptable. It's not on on the CRA employees. They are world-class public servants. This is a systemic failure that's unfolded over decades.
No, not over decades. Just the last decade. Just the last decade under the Liberals, goofball. Don't try to put this on the previous government. Right off the bat, they can't take full responsibility for anything. They have to spread the blame around. That's equity, right? Equity means you get to spread the SHIT around.
Did the honourable member finish his answer?
Literally trying to blame Harper for CRA issues. Oh, it started decades ago.
It's your questions you're losing. It's your questions you're losing.
No, it's Liberals that are losing because you're looking like idiots.
Canadians from coast to coast to coast are frustrated
Allegedly.
with CRA call center delays. I know that. This is not on CRA employees. They're world-class public servants. This is systemic failure over decades. That's why we're implementing a 100-day plan.
That's right.
To improve service and accessibility, and we're going to eliminate delays.
That's right.
The Union of Taxation Employees and the Taxpayers Ombudsman also have expressed support. I'm going to work with CRA leadership. I'm going to hold them accountable. We are going to fix this.
Imagine if they had stayed sitting instead of going on summer holidays like the Conservatives wanted to had they formed government. That this would have been fixed by now, because it's been over 100 days.
But now the parliamentary budget officer is warning against making these changes, saying that if the government obscures its own books, it will, in the PBO's words, bet your boots will be paying more for debt. Wow. So will the finance minister agree that doubling the size of the deficit puts Canada's credit rating at risk, but it exposes taxpayers and households to higher borrowing costs and higher interest rates?
Well, let me guess. The answer is going to be about cutting taxes, building homes,
Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Something else.
Like the member opposite, we respect the work of the PBO and the independence of the institutions that make our democracy so great in this country. Our government is focused on delivering generational investments in the upcoming federal budget, which the minister announced will be on November 4th. This is good news for Canadians. A budget is coming that will ensure Canadians that we have a prosperous future. We're building Canada strong. The opposition members should get on board.
The honourable member for Edmonton West.
and that's why I have this thumbnail. You don't need to know what the deficit is.
Putting Canada's AAA credit rating at risk. The Parliamentary Budget Officer warns that rating agencies are not going to tolerate liberal accounting tricks, and that if they even have a sniff of a change of a budget presentation, Canadians will be paying higher interest rates immediately. Why is this government playing political games with the budget and risking higher costs for all Canadians?
Because when it comes to Liberals, they only care about themselves.
The Conservative Chicken Little routine. We know this week we had great news.
It's no bloody Chicken Little. The past 10 years are proof in the pudding.
Which is actually within the band that the Bank of Canada's target range. That's good news for Canadians because the Bank of Canada dropped interest rates this week by 0.25%. That means more money in the pockets of Canadians. That means Canadians save more on their mortgages this week compared to last. That's the bottom line, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Newmarket Aurora.
The Prime Minister promised more jobs, but the only thing that's booming is unemployment. EIUs among women aged 25 to 54 is up 12% in just 1 month. And overall, EI claims are up nearly 13% year over year. Yet another Liberal broken promise. In Newmarket, I met a mother. She cannot find a stable job. She worries about feeding her 3 kids and paying her rent, and that worry follows her every hour of the day. When will this Liberal government face the damage it has done and apologize to Canadian women for the hardship their policies have caused?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
You know what, Mr. Speaker? 4 months ago, Canadians chose to invest in themselves. They chose a government who saw the promise and potential.
That's what the Canadians invested in, right? That's your argument.
Investing in major projects
We We won the election, so you're going to have to listen to us. This is us down here, thanks to the Liberals, way down here in the bottom.
They knew on this side, a Liberal government would protect them and their families now and into the future. And they knew they risked all of that with the cuts that Conservatives proposed.
Honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, that was truly a striking answer from the minister. My colleague pointed out that EI claims have gone up by 12% among women in that age group in just 1 month. And the minister's response, at least we have jobs. At least the Liberals are still here. Mr. Speaker, they should think less about themselves and their own jobs and more about women and people of all ages who have been negatively affected by their policies. The parliamentary budget officer said the labor market sucks, wages are not going up. They are presiding over an employment disaster. When will they reverse course?
Never. They will not reverse course. This is their plan to destroy Canada completely and utterly.
Speaker, take it from a Conservative to try to torque the words that I clearly did not say. In fact, what I said was that Canadians chose a government that would invest in them, that would adjust our EI measures to reflect a changing economy so that people could access EI where previously they couldn't, where people could keep
You mean this changing economy, the economy that you've destroyed, that you've flatlined?
in case of a collapse of their industry. Mr. Speaker, we know that there are sectors struggling through increased tariff action, and we have not stopped. We have not stopped to protect Canadian families. That's what they...
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
That's what they voted for? That's what they voted for?
Mr. Speaker, the minister is so busy congratulating herself that she hasn't taken...
From the top, please. The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, the minister is so busy congratulating herself for I don't know what that she hasn't actually listened to the numbers that we heard from Statistics Canada today. The situation is truly dire when it comes to unemployment. 12% increase for women 25 to 54 in 1 month alone. 23% increase year over year. Unemployment has been going up steadily for 3 years. Youth unemployment is at recession levels. We have the worst youth employment numbers in over 25 years. Mr. Speaker, this isn't the time for self-congratulation. This is the time to change the policy.
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Mr. Speaker, I'm congratulating Canadians because Canadians chose a government that knew when things were tough that government would protect.
Congratulations, Canada. Hey? That's what she said. Congratulations, you voted Liberal. Yeah. There's your reward.
They would be protected. And they knew that Conservatives would not take care of them in these economically challenging times. They knew they couldn't count on Conservatives.
They knew you couldn't count on Conservatives. Yeah.
Conservatives had a chance to stand up for Canadians. They voted against them.
That's what the opposition does, you goof.
Food inflation is up 70% since the Liberals took office. Groceries are up 3.5%. That's 70% above inflation target. Beef up 33%. Canned soup up 26%. Grapes up 24%. The Prime Minister said Canadians would judge him by the cost at the grocery stores. The new report from Food Banks Canada gives Canada a failing grade on food insecurity. He has failed. Does the self-proclaimed great economist Prime Minister think that long lines at the food banks are good for our economy?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Mr. Speaker, Food Banks Canada conducts important research, and they also make very important recommendations for governments. They say that we should strengthen the social safety net to support Canadians facing affordability challenges. So we're doing that with dental care, with the middle class.
So we should spend more of the taxpayers' money.
$10 a day childcare. Those things are making a difference.
As fewer people have jobs and your tax base shrinks, you want to spend more tax money. Typical failed socialist.
Just keep pointing fingers, or are they going to make some recommendations? Maybe read the report from the experts like food bankers.
They've made recommendations all the way back to the election, and that is to reverse course that has destroyed Canada for the past 10 years.
From the Stony Creek Food Bank informed my office that 1 in 4 households need to visit a food bank. 1 in 3 individuals walking in are children. They were serving 30 to 40 families per day before the summer. now 55 to 65 per day. That's up 71% since spring. Quote, Christmas season demand without Christmas-level donations. Canadians were promised food prices would decrease, but they've gone up. Would the Prime Minister please explain to the good people of Stony Creek why this promise was broken?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Speaker, when I take the time to sit down with food bankers and experts in poverty reduction right across the country, they make recommendations. They talk about strengthening our social safety net and making sure that there's
I won't
services
answer the
like
question.
EI
It's an impossible
available
question
to
to answer.
Canadians.
Why?
Mr.
They broke
Speaker,
their promise
we've also got
because we
challenges
knew
with
the
northern
promise
food
was going to be
insecurity,
broken.
and that is something that we are working on directly on the advice of experts in poverty reduction. So again, I'll ask, will the Conservatives
Always deferring to
continue to point
experts,
fingers
these liberals,
or make
right?
some
They
real
never mention who these
recommendations? Maybe
experts
perhaps
are. They
read
never
the food
mention that
banks
these
report, garner a
experts
little bit
are
of insight from the experts
ideologically
on the front
aligned
lines,
with them
and work
in
together to
spending
end this crisis.
taxpayer money to solve every problem. That's their only solution. Spend, 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 spend.
compulsives des libéraux depuis 10 ans ont un impact direct sur l'inflation alimentaire. Et on sait que dans quelques semaines à peine, le déficit va être encore plus élevé que du temps de Trudeau. Qui l'eût cru, Monsieur le Président? Et l'inflation alimentaire touche toutes les familles canadiennes. Le premier ministre disait cette semaine que la guerre des tarifs avait un impact là-dessus. Ah oui? Alors, est-ce que vous pourriez nous expliquer pourquoi les pommes qui sont produites au Canada, qui sont cueillies au Canada, qui sont vendues au Canada, qui sont mangées par les Canadiens, est impactée par l'inflation de 14
Honorable ministre de la Transformation.
Très bonne question.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Je veux remercier mon collègue pour sa question. Toutefois, je trouve toujours fascinant de voir les conservateurs se trouver une conscience pendant la période des questions, mais l'oublier quand vient le temps de voter. Quand vient le temps de voter pour l'allocation canadienne pour enfants, qui a un impact majeur dans son comté, dans mon
No,
comté,
you
pour
cannot
réduire la
make
pauvreté
an
infantile.
argument
Quand vient le temps de
of the
voter pour du
Conservatives
logement
voting
abordable
for
partout
your
au pays, dans son
socialist
comté, dans la région de
spending
Québec, partout
as
au
an
pays.
argument
Quand vient le temps de
against
voter,
doing
Monsieur
something
le
for
Président,
Canadians.
pour des
It's
petits
obvious that they
déjeuners pour
keep
les
pointing
enfants,
out your
100 000
failed
enfants à travers le Québec
policies,
pour des
which
places en
have
garderie, aide les familles.
obviously
C'est ça qui
failed
me
Canada.
fascine, Monsieur le Président.
The
C'est
proof
l'hypocrisie de l'autre côté de la
is
Chambre.
in
Merci beaucoup.
the bloody pudding.
Le député de Louis Saint-Laurent à Kiawenrac.
Monsieur le Président, je tiens à mentionner au ministre qu'on parle ici d'un élément essentiel à la vie, la nourriture. Et actuellement, c'est des milliers, des millions de Canadiens qui frappent aux portes concernant l'alimentation alimentaire, les banques alimentaires. Il sait très bien que Solidarité Famille sur le boulevard Lormière, les nouvelles demandes ont doublé, Monsieur le Président. Il sait très bien que chez Amélie Frédéric sur le boulevard Bastien, il sait très bien que c'est 50 de plus de demandes pour dépannage alimentaire urgent. C'est ça la réalité après 10 ans du gouvernement libéral. Pourquoi avoir de l'hypocrisie par rapport à l'alimentation alimentaire concernant l'inflation alimentaire de tous les Canadiens?
L'honorable ministre de la Transformation du gouvernement.
Getting passionate because people are starving to death.
Monsieur le Président, c'est précisément pourquoi les Canadiens ont choisi de faire confiance à un gouvernement libéral qui, d'une part,
So the fact that people are starving is exactly why they voted for Liberals. Right? Exactly why they voted for Liberals, who went on vacation. Right? As soon as they formed government, they went on vacation.
L'allocation canadienne pour enfants en place. Quand on a mis en place, Monsieur le Président, des investissements en logement abordable qui aident des familles à avoir un toit d'un bout à l'autre.
Blah, 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 blah. We're going to spend, 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 spend to help people because all their plans in the past have worked so well.
Programmes sociaux de qualité d'un bout à l'autre. Merci.
L'honorable député d'Argenteuil, la Petite Nation.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Alors que le Canada met en œuvre d'importants projets d'infrastructure et d'énergie propre, l'enseignant de la formation professionnelle en moi sait bien que les travailleurs qualifiés seront essentiels. La ministre peut-elle nous informer à cette Chambre des mesures prises pour soutenir la mobilité et la formation de la main-d'œuvre?
L'honorable ministre de l'Emploi et des Familles.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Les travailleurs canadiens sont prêts à bâtir. Plus de 100 000 travailleurs ont été formés dans le cadre du programme pour la formation et l'innovation en milieu syndical. Nous facilitons la reconnaissance de leurs titres de compétences partout au pays. Ce gouvernement est déterminé à rebâtir le pays et les travailleurs canadiens le sont tout autant.
Submitted that they're ready to rebuild Canada. So if you're rebuilding something, that means you destroyed it, right?
Minister of Transport was warned in May about BC Ferries buying ships from a Chinese state-owned shipyard, 6 weeks before the public was told. Yet the minister claimed surprise. in this House. I am going to give the new minister the opportunity to break tradition with his predecessor and tell us the truth. Did she mislead Parliament? Yes or no?
Here, here.
Oh, you don't get an answer when you ask these questions.
For housing and infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Like many of us in the House, I was disappointed as a British Columbian to learn that BC Ferries had procured the ferries from offshore. The reality was there were no Canadian bids on that procurement, and that's something that this side of the House is taking action on. First and foremost, making sure that we're supporting Canadian workers, Canadian materials, Canadian technologies. We are focused on a Buy Canadian strategy. We're rolling it out, and we expect the support around the House.
Honourable member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
Unbelievable. With so many steel and shipbuilding jobs at stake, it's beyond belief that the former minister refused to push back and demand that these boats be made in Canada. Canadian unions and shipyards deserve a federal and provincial government that believes in them, listens to them, most importantly, stands up for them. When BC Ferries first flagged the deal to the federal government, did the former minister not have a duty to inform the House? Or, and I'm asking for the new part-time minister, do they think that Canadians can't handle the truth?
Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the opposition is twisting the facts around here. This is a BC Ferries procurement. These ferries were procured by BC Ferries, which is part of BC. It's important to distinguish between levels of government and arm's length from government, independent decisions that were made by BC Ferries. Of course, we're all disappointed with the decision because we want to invest in Canadian jobs. We want to invest in the Canadian shipbuilding industry, and we're ramping up the initiative to build Canadian ships.
Member for Haldimand Norfolk.
Misled. New emails show that BC Ferries warned the former Minister of Transport's officials 6 weeks before announcing that the ferries would be built in China. Yet, the minister stood in this House of Commons and claimed that she was blindsided. At the same time, her staff was working with the Prime Minister's office on how to spin this billion-dollar deal. Canadians just want to know the truth. Why did the Liberals ship Canadian tax dollars and jobs straight to China?
The Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Again, I don't know why this is so confusing for the members opposite. This is a BC Ferries procurement.
No, it's not confusing. It's not confusing for them at all. It's confusing for you because you are incapable of answering the question like every other Liberal because they're too embarrassing for you.
Mr. Speaker, we can do our part to invest in Canadian jobs, Canadian workers. We are focused on a Buy Canada strategy, and we will deliver for Canadian workers.
Member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to represent the people of Davenport, many of whom trace their Canadian story to Brazil and across South America. This summer, I hosted a roundtable with Brazilian Canadian business leaders and organizations to discuss the opportunities for growth in these emerging markets. I want to thank the Brazil-Canada Chamber of Commerce and the Minister of International Trade for participating in this discussion ahead of his visit to Brazil and Colombia. Could the Minister update this House on how the government plans to diversify Canada's trade relationships? Good question. Thank you.
Minister of International Trade.
From Davenport for her efforts in bringing together the Canadian-Brazilian business community. It is those insights that I took to Brazil a few weeks ago as we announced the launch of Canada-Mercosur discussions, a trading bloc consisting of over 250 million potential consumers that want to buy more Canadian products. This is just one of the many initiatives that our government is taking to get world-class Canadian products to new markets around the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for York Centre.
This year, the Liberals will pay $300 million for the mayhem in Toronto's homeless shelters. Toronto shelters now hand out needles and drug accessories to anyone who walks in. The shelters now turn into injection sites, bringing more crime and chaos to the streets of Toronto. Now, Olivia Chow
That's what the
wants
Liberals have done,
to pay for
Canada.
construction of 20 more shelters inside of Toronto's residential neighborhoods. Proposed for my riding, the shelter at Keelan Wilson will be between a middle school and a daycare. Torontonians don't want shelters that function like drug dens close to our schools and playgrounds. Will the Liberals say no to Olivia Chow's shelters, or will they pay for their construction to have Toronto's children picking up used needles.
Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I appreciate the member opposite giving me the opportunity to talk about an unprecedented $1 billion investment in supportive housing.
Typical, eh? Let's
Or in shelters so they can move into transitional housing supported by health supports. We have an unprecedented investment ahead.
So they're going to brag about
spending
spending your money
into housing.
providing needles between daycares and middle schools. Right? He didn't answer. He's in full support of having used needles around kids.
Are the backbone of our communities. They deliver prescriptions, they deliver checks, they deliver vital communications. They could expand services as well to include things like postal banking and seniors check-ins. Yet instead of supporting the workers, instead of allowing them to bargain, the Liberal government has chosen to fight with over 65,000 workers. They've used Section 107 to suspend postal workers' legal rights to strike. Why is the government siding with Canada Post instead of standing up for fair wages, safe workplaces, and a stronger...
Well, maybe in this case it's because they refuse to deliver the mail. They're talking they don't want to deliver flyers. You don't have much to deliver anymore.
Pour le pays qui offre un service dans plusieurs communautés rurales éloignées. Et je salue le travail de ces employés, de ces facteurs qui ont livré la poste au Canada depuis maintenant 158 ans à travers toutes les circonstances. Je veux les remercier pour leur travail. Quant au conflit actuel, j'espère que les deux parties vont trouver à s'entendre. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Typical non-answer.
The high cost of groceries makes life in the harsh Arctic more difficult. The discontinuation of the ICFI Hamlet Food Voucher Program hit Nunavut hard. People often ask for donations just to feed their family.
Shame.
This is a direct result of chronic underinvestment in Nunavut by both Liberals and Conservatives. I have written to the Minister of Indigenous Services. Will she respond with much-needed investments?
Shame.
That footage I have at the beginning and end of my show is from my trip up to Iqaluit on the way there. And yeah, the food is super expensive up north.
Is making life more
It's got to be flown in.
the north through practical action that reaches families, strengthens communities, and reflects Northerners and what they've told us. We're supporting Indigenous-led housing solutions and building more homes right across the three territories in Inuit, Nunangat.
So you haven't even provided clean water in 10 years. You're not answering the question.
Food through the Canada Child Benefit. We're expanding access to traditional foods with the Harvesters Support Program and improving Nutrition North so that families can put real local food on the table. Most importantly, we're listening, we're refining our approach with the guidance of Indigenous leaders and building real partnerships that deliver.
Obviously, the Member of Parliament from Nunavut is not happy with that answer. I can hear her.
Et puis, je vais donner un instant là, aux députés de quitter tranquillement la Chambre, en silence, si possible.
Looks like no points of order.
And once again, I would urge members to leave the chamber rapidly and in silence, if possible, because we have the Thursday question from the opposition House Leader, I believe.
Shocked that members would want to leave the chamber before the Thursday question.
Yeah.
Maybe we should start rolling right from question period right into the Thursday question so that more members can hear what is to come. So, being the first Thursday after the summer holidays, I want to welcome my government House Leader counterpart and ask him if he could inform the House as to what the business will be for the rest of this week and into next week. Specifically, Mr. Speaker, on two quick points. We have extended an olive branch in the spirit of cooperation and non-partisanship that we would quickly pass conservative laws to end the catch and release system that the Liberals created and impose tough penalties for dangerous and repeat offenders. We could pass that legislation very quickly, get it off to committee and off to the Senate so we can finally put an end to the crime and chaos that Liberal soft on crime policies have caused. And secondly, my colleague, the Shadow Minister for Employment and Jobs, has asked the government if he would schedule an emergency take-note debate on the issue of youth unemployment. This is something that is affecting young Canadians in every corner of the country.
These Liberals are so
There is a lot of
unprepared for
bleak
Parliament after
reports
taking
out
the
there,
entire
and
summer
Canadians
off.
who
If you
are
go to
giving
and
up
watch
on
the
hope of
committees,
finding a job,
most of them don't have a clue
leading
what they're
to
doing.
home
They don't
ownership
even
and
know how
starting their
committees
lives with
run
families. I think
whatsoever.
it's an excellent
Like they
suggestion by
didn't
my
even
colleague,
spend like a day
the Shadow
watching
Minister
committee
for
meetings to
Employment
know
and Jobs.
how
I'm
they
wondering
work.
if the government
They showed up
publicly
completely
agrees that
unprepared,
this is an urgent
and they
issue
don't
that
even
needs to be
have a
debated,
business
and when
schedule
he will schedule
for the
that
entire
debate for
sitting
the
of the
House
time. I
participating.
understand it's malleable at times, but they didn't even schedule business for the entire line.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Et à mon tour, je veux souhaiter la bienvenue au leader en chambre de l'opposition
Yeah, and
officielle
here's a
ainsi
lying
que tous
goof who
ses
lied at
collègues
the very
et
first
d'ailleurs
day in
tous les
Parliament
collègues de cette
about
chambre.
it
Je
was
suis
the
certain
Liberals'
que nous allons avoir
responsibility
une
for
session
shutting down
productive,
business
Monsieur le
from June
Président, et
2024 because
nous
they
allons
refused to
y
hand over
voir.
5,000 pages of
Cet
unredacted
après-midi, nous
documents
allons
that would have
poursuivre le
shown
débat sur la
their
motion de
complicity in the
l'opposition du
SDTC
Parti
greenwashing
conservateur. Demain,
and missing
nous
monies.
reprendrons le débat en deuxième lecture du projet de loi C3 qui modifie la loi sur la citoyenneté. J'aimerais aussi noter que mercredi prochain, nous entamerons le débat à l'étape de la deuxième lecture du projet de loi C8, loi concernant la cybersécurité. Mr. Speaker, I would like to inform the House that Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday of next week shall be allotted days. And furthermore, Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 83-2, I request the designation of an order of the day to allow the presentation of a budget speech at 4 p.m. on Tuesday, November 4th, 2025. As it relates to the question for a take-note debate, I would note that the Conservatives have two, as I just indicated, opposition days scheduled for next week, and they could certainly choose this very important topic on which the government will have a lot to say for debate if they believe it is that important. And with respect to the crime legislation, I would simply point out that there is crime legislation presented by this government that meets the test of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms before this House, and I would very much urge my Conservative colleagues to get on board with that right now so that we can fight crime in this country. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
He's talking about the Conservatives getting on board right away. They're trying to hide something in legislation that is totalitarian or authoritarian, or has something in there that enriches their friends.
Government orders business of supply, resuming consideration of an opposition motion regarding violent crime and repeat offenders, standing in the name of Mr. Brock.
Resuming.
All right, see you next time. Bye-bye.